What's up, everybody? This your girl Goldie, and you in for another edition of It's All Good in the Hood. And today, our special guest is Cliff Beach. Let's give him a round of applause, everybody. How you doing, Cliff?
Hey Goldie, how are you? Looking good. Love the red.
I'm
It's popping.
good. Thank you. Thank you. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you from?
I'm originally from Chocolate City, Washington, D.C., Maryland, the DMV, home of the Blue Crabs and Old
Uh,
Bay. But I live,
Really?
yeah. I grew up in a family of all kind of Baptist ministers. I'm the only person that is working on a stage, not a pulpit, but I do love,
Okay.
I do love it. Um, yeah, but I grew up my whole life in DC, and then I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston and studied music, and then moved right to Los Angeles, where I've now been, over 20 plus years of working on music in the industry. And it's a beautiful city. If you've ever been or anyone come visit.
I haven't. I want to come though. I really do. I want to come because I've heard so much about it, and you all have a lot of things going on that I could come and actually enjoy myself, just like you can come here and enjoy us at New Orleans. We have a lot. Everything ain't about Bourbon Street.
Yeah, well, as long as we get some beignets and chicory coffee and we
Oh,
hear some music.
gotcha. Gotcha when you come down here. I got you. We going right to the beignet, please. Okay.
Okay.
So I know LA, has a lot. Y'all have a lot of artists from LA, okay? Um, but Detroit is also known for a lot. You know anything about that history with that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you say Detroit, the Motor City, you have to mention Motown. And I love
Okay.
Motown for all the great artists. And I love their reviews. Well, what Barry Gordy was able to build to make Black music acceptable by larger white audiences and cross
Mhm.
that color barrier, it wasn't necessarily no one had done it at that time, but definitely
Mhm.
not as a label. Not that everything was curated. You would flip over the record, see this is a Motown record, this is a Time Love
Mhm.
record. You knew it was going to be good. But I mean, Stevie Wonder, Smokey Robinson, Diana Ross, the Jackson Five, the
Yes.
Temptations,
Yeah.
Martha and the Vandellas. They had so many hits, so many people, and you can't talk about them because I know you had a dad that played in the band and back in
Yeah.
Temptations. In the same
Mhm.
way, those musicians, the Funk Brothers, the people
Yeah.
behind that, the
Yeah.
shadows of Motown,
Mhm.
made it what it was. When you talk about players like a James Jamerson, one of the
Yeah.
best bass players of all time,
Uh-huh.
they were able to create music that was so iconic and it lasts. See, the thing is now, when you fast forward to music now, if I was in an old folks home listening to 2026 music, I probably wouldn't want to hear anything
Yeah,
from
I
this
know.
year.
Yeah.
But Motown has lasted even after making musicals
I
and documentaries. It
know.
lasts. It lasts.
Baby, we still love Michael Jackson from a child singing. Wee.
Yeah, you get that
You
purple hat
already
cocked to
know,
the
you
side.
know. Oh
Mm-hmm.
yes, oh yes. And now when I got older, I wonder like how he knew about all that. You know what I'm saying? Somebody must have been writing for him because he sung like an old soul. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
his
Well,
young age had grown people crying.
Well, what made him prolific is that he studied the greats. You see him as a 4-year-old emulating James Brown, who he idolized and loved, and doing
Mhm.
those moves. You'll see even in his music videos, what made it iconic, he studied Charlie Chaplin. He studied the musicals, Fred Astaire and Grace Kelly, and was self-taught to be a dancer. But Michael's miracle, I mean, he could make beats. He did all types of things. You'll see so many little things that he did, but the beauty of him, especially his dancing, is
Mhm.
that he they have this thing of counting the eights. Like some
Mhm.
people like five, six, seven, eight, one, two, three. He didn't count. He just felt it. He was like, I need to be here and boom, boom, boom.
Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
innateness and naturalness makes it infectious.
Yeah.
If you watch the bad video, first the bad song, if you break it down, that chorus, I'm bad, really, really bad. There's no lyrics there. It's just the
Yeah.
sheer power of what he's saying. But
Mhm.
the greatest dance move they do, you see them all line up, they just shift.
Yeah.
side. And it's so easy, like anyone could do it. But when you have the synergy of everybody doing it, or you look at how they make Thriller and you freeze frame,
Yeah.
you can draw a line under everybody making this
Yeah.
jump. So they were like really specific, but he was good at saying, pull me people from the street, pull me this person, pull me this director. Like
Hmm.
he's watching a movie, American Werewolf in Paris, and says, I want that guy to make me a werewolf in the
Hmm.
movie. And they had never made
Yeah.
that. Then he said MTV, who didn't want to play any black artists at the time, he
Hmm.
was the first. He got them to underwrite doing a documentary to make Thriller. And so and then just being a businessman, buying catalogs. The Sony
Yeah.
catalog is probably the most prolific
Yeah.
catalog, owning Elvis and the Beatles. As a black
Hmm.
person, nobody did that. No one was thinking like that. There was a time in the later 2000s, Eminem said something about Michael he didn't like. He just bought Eminem's catalog. That's being a mogul. I don't need to clap back. I'm just gonna own you. Now you can just I'll make money off whatever you
Yes.
say.
All
I'm
right,
into it.
Michael. He ran a power move on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I got the chance to watch Cadillac Records. Did you see that?
Oh yes, with Beyonce as
Yes.
James and everybody's
Yes.
great.
And
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of copywriting. So to see how they did it then, come up, roll up with the machine and everything. Oh my goodness. We come a long way. The history is just the journey. I must say it was worth it. It really was.
I love that time period because music before civil rights, like you had to go. Like you look at the movie Sinners, you really see what that juke joint experience was like and
Yeah.
how people survived and thrived on
Yeah.
that. The black experience to me is like we took everything and we had less and we made it more and we made it
Yeah.
stretch and we made it interesting and it became part of the culture. And
Yeah.
so, it's like the smell of the fish fry and the food and the
Yeah.
camaraderie and the dancing and the singing and the evolution of music. So when you look at chess and you look at Etta James and all these great artists,
Yeah.
the Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf, just
Yes.
the power behind what they did. Those
Hmm.
people, they a lot of people that came up from sharecropping and other stuff, they didn't have the
Yeah.
most education, but they had the feeling. They knew how to transfer that feeling and work with the
Hmm.
audience and sing fully immersive. It's like I tell people, hokey pokey, put your whole self into it. Like
Yes.
good singing, it's not about the notes and high notes, low notes as much as it is the feeling, and as much as like it's ugly. You're gonna make a face. You got to get that
Hmm.
sound out there. It's not about let's take a picture and everybody looks pretty. Let's make it real and organic and
Yeah.
authentic. And that those artists really were able to do that and make songs that spoke to the times.
Oh
But then
yeah.
they carried on. So like
Hmm.
even now they're still relevant.
Yes, of course. And I believe that was also because, I guess I assume they had, ups and downs with other artists and things. But by my dad playing in the band with the Temptations, they other groups would come to our house like Gladys Knight. You had Jeannie Knight. She would come. They would the Four Tops, the Whispers, the Neville Brothers. They would come to the house and eat on Sunday, and they're like everybody was just real close during that time. I seen Mr. Neville's son, Jason. It had been a while. And I said, you remember my dad and them come and he sung me the song. I couldn't believe it that he knew that. You know what I'm saying? We are just so rich in music.
Yes, and the good people stick together and they do know each other and they do, follow their careers. They keep a pulse to everything and they're historians. They
Yeah.
really know what came before to honor the music, but then to innovate. In
Mhm.
music, whenever you want to have improvisation, you start with first knowing the song, knowing the changes, knowing the
Mhm.
melody. So you have to know what has come before. So
Yeah.
all the greats that you see will have someone that they watched and learned from and
Mhm.
know. That's how you get someone like an Aretha Franklin who can come and do Pavarotti. People are like,
Yeah.
"Oh, at the Grammys, you know classical music?" Yes, I know Ness and Dorma because
Hmm.
I know outside of my stuff. You've seen people in gospel who have gone into classical. Shirley Caesar has done it. Yolanda Adams has done it. It's because yes, people are more than you think. The Black experience is like we know everything. We listen to musicals. We listen to country. So when Beyonce put her country record out, she wasn't the first Black person to do country. She wasn't the first Black person to win a Grammy doing country. That's the Pointer
Hmm.
Sisters in 1978 for Fairy Tale. And so knowing the Charlie Pride and the histories, she's from Houston. Of course she would know country, you know, and things get gate kept. You know, you look at bluegrass, the banjo is an African instrument. People
Hmm.
forget the name banjo, that's an African word. You know, it's been anglicized, but you know, Black people, what happens is
Hmm.
that we create something. We created rock and roll with Little Richard and Chuck Berry. White people took that over, but that's a Black art form. And
And
so
he
is
kept
everything.
telling us that too. He
Mm-hmm.
always would say, but he said it in a joking way, you know what I'm saying? And people would laugh. But he always said that though.
But they paved the way for people to have makeup and theatrics and flamboyance. There was no one like I give way more respect for a person, Little Richard, during a time where it was not fully accepted to be able to be as outlandish, and you know, and he did things to his own accord when he
Yeah.
left music, and then he went to the church, you know,
Hmm.
and then he came back
Hmm.
and Al Green did that. Al Green
Hmm.
won way more Grammys for gospel music than he did for any of his early
Yeah.
R&B, and they're both equally great. And so I think that's the Black experience, that it's always expansive, it's always growing and changing, and when we get bored, we move on to something else. But there's a through line. It's like if you listen to jazz and Miles Davis, and then you listen to an NWA. Well, they sampled jazz because that was the music of the time. But bebop and jazz, you look at someone like a Billie Holiday, Strange Fruit, that's a protest song. You look at
Hmm.
Mississippi Goddamn, that's a protest song. Those
Hmm.
people were like, look, this is what we want to talk about. Say it loud, I'm Black and the Proud. That was a
Hmm.
big movement. Now
Yeah.
people take that for granted. But back then, to the fight to be called something that wasn't derogatory, you were still colored then.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing. We create those things, and then we just have to be champions of reminding people of that history, and not just in February, all the time. We in 12 months don't have enough time to get through all the Black history, let alone the shortest month.
Yeah.
Remember that Black History Month used to be Black History Day, Black History Week. We had to fight
Yeah.
to get a month, but
Yeah.
I think within that month, we need to push our children and people beyond the
Oh
same
yeah.
8 people. We can't always be George Washington Carver and Harriet Tubman. There's
Hmm.
so many other people, especially
Oh
in
yeah.
music.
Yeah.
Music alone. That's why we have a whole Black Music Month in June. People still don't realize that's Black Music Month with Juneteenth
Yeah.
now as a national holiday, but we should be
Hmm.
championing all Black music
Oh
in
yeah.
all styles, but especially the ones
Hmm.
that you hear about less. There are Black folk singers, the Tracy Chapmans of the world, or Rion Givens. Those people are exciting and
Yeah.
interesting to see that we as Black people can adapt and shape into any
Hmm.
form.
And the business ups and downs has a lot to do with it because Malara is one of my favorite singers. I mean, she was here and then she wasn't. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? And it's just like with so many of them, they were here and then they wasn't. I used to hear Cisco and I didn't. All I saw was the old stuff. You know what I'm saying? So the ups and downs with that plays a big part in it.
Huge. I mean, you just saw on the Grammys, Lauryn Hill. Her story is tragic what they did to her music. She
Hmm.
came out with Miseducation. She won her 5 Grammys after the
Hmm.
Fugees and after Sister Act and all that. And then, you know, she was basically discredited because she had these ghost producers and stuff. And they
Yeah.
tore her down because she was the first female to do that. The Wyclefs and stuff, they didn't like that she went solo. So they said, oh, she didn't do this or that. She did a lot. See, the thing is that having ghost producers and ghost writers, that's not new. I can point to you at many Berklee professors who ghosted under Quincy Jones for Thriller.
Yeah.
There was like 40 people in there you never heard of. Even
Yeah.
the players like your dad, you look at a Greg Fillinganes,
Hmm.
they stole a bunch of stuff from them and
Yeah.
Toto to make that music, or they borrowed it. I mean, it's fine. We all appropriate, but you know, they don't always give credit. You look at Chess. many times. Willie Dixon, he wrote a bunch of songs for people. He had to fight Led Zeppelin to get his name on "Whole Lot of Love," which they took from "You Need Love,"
Yeah.
and so we need people to give that credit where credit's due. You're going to see it now with AI. People are going to be doing stuff and pulling from somewhere. It's like that
Hmm.
AI doesn't create. AI just scrapes. And so they're pulling from somewhere, and you are inadvertently pulling from some source material
Hmm.
from someone who's not getting credit. But I'm fine
Hmm.
with all that borrowing and stealing. Just name drop or help them. Like there was, I think, Blind Pig or some record label or Fat Possum. They had all these like kind of black artists, R.L. Burnside and people like that, and they made so much money from them. And those people lived in the hills. They didn't have anything. They didn't have health care and different stuff, and they helped
Hmm.
to a certain degree. But it's like black people as businesses, we don't own as
Yeah.
much as we should.
Yeah.
Like you want to own, like Mariah Carey, she's
Yeah.
Music Carrier of the Year, and as a person of color, she almost sold her entire publishing at 18 for $5,000. Now
Hmm.
you look at her, she has that Christmas song you hate to hear every Christmas, and it's the top song of all time on Billboard.
Yeah.
And if she
Yeah.
gave away just that one song, let alone all her number ones, I mean, she had a laundry list of number ones.
Hmm.
Um, she would have left money on the table. And she had married the person who owned the label, and then I went south, and then she had to do other stuff. She fought. She then went to another label. People thought after Glitter she was done, and then she got paid not to sing. Then she left, had a bit more big hits. See,
Hmm.
that's why don't discount somebody. Don't think that their time is over. Don't think
Hmm.
that they can't resurface. You look at Tina Turner when she came back at 42. People say you're so old, you're a has-been. What's love got to do with it? Boom. Number one, don't count anybody out
Yeah.
because black people, we are survivors, and we will continue to show up. And that's why I love people like Betty LaVette. In her 60s, she started getting her flowers.
Hmm.
It's never too late. And I think we need to champion older people doing stuff
Yeah.
because we praise the young, but what do you know? What do you know about
Yeah.
love at 16, 18, 20?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
want to hear 60 when you've been through cancer and back and people have
Thank
died. Then
you.
you tell
Thank
me
you.
about something. That's why I tell
Uh-huh.
people if you go to like a therapist or something, if you haven't been through something similar, like you
Yeah.
haven't had enough life, I don't want to hear a marriage and love advice from someone you just got married last year or last week or you never
Hmm.
been married. I want someone, an old couple sitting on a bench, feeding, throwing some bread to the birds, and they're like,
Uh-huh.
we've been through it. I don't like the way she squeezed the toothpaste. I don't like the way he wrote the toilet paper, but we made it work.
Uh-huh.
That's the people I want to see, and that's the
Yeah.
music that I want to listen to.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I hear them all the time on, everybody got a podcast now.
Mm-hmm.
So we're even going to be on a podcast, you and I.
Of
So
course.
everybody has one. And most of the things that they talk about is relationships, mostly because even though we have other obstacles, but relationships is the main thing that people are trying to clarify. They trying to understand it. And I don't think they'll get the answers from somebody else. It's like you said, you got to go through it because you could tell me this and that and this and that. And when the times get tough, you done got wings and you out of here. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? You got to go
Oh,
through it. You got to
it,
deal with it. Is we gonna break up and get back together, or is it you gonna text me and say, it's a lot. It's
yeah.
it's just a lot, you
No,
know.
it's true. I've heard a song with a group. It hasn't come out, but it was called "Easy to Leave and Harder to Stay." Yeah,
Yeah,
of course. It's always easy to go.
yeah,
But I tell people, like with civil rights, you write these laws down. With marriage, you sign this thing. If you need a piece of paper binding you to
yeah.
something, that's not commitment. That's not doing the right thing. It has to be
Hmm.
in you.
Yeah.
And the older generations, they didn't just get divorced. You just had to live with your choices. Now, I'm not saying, if it's abusive or something, I'm not saying just always deal with it. But certain things, like people get to, oh, we had irreconcilable differences. It's like, well, we're just going to have to learn to get along or peacefully
Hmm.
exist. You know that you're bringing two opposites together. A man
Yeah.
and a woman, you come from two different sides of the street. Doesn't mean that one's right or wrong. They're just different. And
Yeah.
that forcing of those together is you need each other. You can't have
Hmm.
everybody hyper masculine or hyper feminine. And it doesn't mean that men and women don't adjust, right? It doesn't mean that men are just 100% and women are zero, polar opposites. It's
Mhm.
like we're in the
Mhm.
middle because you have that DNA of your mom and your dad. So 50% of each, they live in you. And it's a yin and yang. But the point is the people that make it to that other side and they figure out, wow,
Mhm.
we had these issues and we worked through them. Every time as a business or anything else, a musician, you have a constraint and you have to work through it.
Mhm.
That getting through it, the becoming, the doing it when you become on the other side is always different. And
Mhm.
but you're better off. Like if you go to therapy or something and you're forced to deal with the problems and learn how to
Yeah.
communicate, then it's just better. In the process, it sucks. It's hard. It's
Mhm.
painful. It's uncomfortable. But all true growth happens outside your comfort zone. Like
Yeah.
you chose to be with a person who is
Mhm.
completely their own person. So like,
Mhm.
and you're gonna be frustrated trying to control this
Mhm.
person who's uncontrollable. You just have to let them let you.
Yeah.
Like you're
Yeah.
making mistakes, let them make mistakes. There's things you don't like, but can you live with it? At the end of the day, like I
Yeah.
think as you get older, you start to burn off a
Mhm.
lot of things that you thought were important aren't important. The core things are important. Is this person, when I'm sick, going to hold my hand or help me in this situation? Are they
Yeah.
going to be there when I need them?
Mhm.
And that's true commitment. Commitment and perseverance. It works where people have this misconception that the feeling to want to do it is going to be there. No, you
Mhm.
have to just commit blindly, 100%, no matter what. I said I'd be there. I'm there. There's lots of
Mhm.
times I don't want to go to that gig or do that
Mhm.
music thing. I feel sick or tired or I'm
Mhm.
overworked or underpaid, all those things. But I made a commitment. I need to show up because
Yeah.
when you look at the book, The Four Agreements, the first thing they teach you about this, historical society, the rule is be impeccable with your word. If you said it
Mhm.
and you meant it, you got to do it. If you say, I'm going to show up, I'm going to show up. And that's difficult in LA because I meet a lot of people versus East Coast or other places that are a little more flaky. If we say we're going to meet, we set a time, we set a date, we set a location,
Mhm.
I'm there. People will message you up to the minute, oh, are you going to be there? I said I was going to be there. I put it on my calendar. I committed. That's
Uh-huh.
why I talk to people. I was talking to a woman and I was like, can you be half pregnant? She said, no, of course not. I said, exactly. Commit. You either are or you aren't. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in between. In between is ambiguity and it creates inertia and it just if we say we're both going to show up and only one of us hold it up, that seesaw is not going to balance. I'm going to be on the bottom and I can't get to the middle because I need you to counterbalance me. So that's commitment for
Mhm.
me, and
And you
that's why I
don't
want
need
to
to
hear from
find that out at the last minute.
you don't because everything, our whole system, our world is built on trust. If I give you this money and God we trust, I'm trusting that you're going to do something with it and I'm going to get value from it and we're going to exchange goods and
Mhm.
services. That's built on trust. There is no gold standard anymore. So we have only the trust faintly holding us together, by a
Mhm.
thread. We're holding on the same way that Chapel Roan's dress was holding on to her, just by a little
Yeah.
piece. That's all we get. But the trust, because the thing is that you meet someone like right now, I give you 100, we give 100, we have a lot of trust. But if I say I was
Mhm.
going to show up and I don't, and now we're at zero, now getting to that 100 again, rebuilding trust. You cheat on
Mhm.
someone, you have an affair, you held something back, and you break that trust. That's a hard, doesn't mean you can't, but that's a hard road. The thing is, you start at the trust and you keep the trust. That's easier. It's much easier to maintain than to have to start from scratch. But the trust is the underpinning of everything we do.
Well, tell me this. How would you describe the music that you made?
I do mostly funk, soul, R&B, but I do jazz. So I just tell people like I do the American roots. It's one tree with a bunch of branches, and I do them all because I didn't want to be pigeonholed or stuck. I
Uh-huh.
consider my music hybrid. I always have multiple styles mixed in there
Yeah.
because there's a little bit of blues, there's a little bit of rock, there's a little bit of funk, there's a little bit of R&B, but there's a little bit of jazz, there's a little bit of hip hop, but they're all interrelated. I don't
Hmm.
I it's like it creates a mixture that's homogenous where you couldn't pull out any one thing. They are all the things. And
Hmm.
black people are all the things. And people love multiple styles of music. We're onions, we're layers. So to narrow us down to just one thing, it's like, well, nobody's one thing. You look at Lionel Richie, he wrote the song once, twice, three times a lady. about his mom, it's about you are always more than one thing. You're a
Mm-hmm.
mom and a wife and a daughter and a cousin and a neighbor,
Yeah.
and so that's how I feel. It's like I'm
Mm-hmm.
a musician and a radio person and a podcast person, and I have a record label and a publishing company. I'm all those things all the time. I might not be working physically in that thing at that moment, but they're
Mm-hmm.
all there. I'm a musician, even if I never sing or play a note. It's
Yeah.
still me.
Still
I'm
a
still me
musician.
every day.
Yes. Yes. So, at what age did you start?
I started, I started singing pretty much from when the doctor slapped me on the behind. And he said, "You're going to be special," right? But
Uh-huh.
then when I started growing up around 5, 6, my mom said that God wanted her to put me in piano lessons. So I took piano lessons all through elementary school, middle school, high school. And
Mm-hmm.
then that pushed me to want to go to conservatory. And I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston. And that's why, so growing up with the Baptist ministers, I was sheltered, and so we listened to mostly Christian and gospel music,
Yeah.
but which is also part of my style of music.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of great players from gospel. You look at Aretha, James Brown, lots of people, Sam Cooke. They all then went secular. So
Mm-hmm.
when I got to Berklee, I tell people it's like growing up in kindergarten. I had the 8 box of crayons, and then I got to Berklee, and someone's like, "What do you know about this 64 box crayons?" Like I
Yeah.
had all these colors and palettes that I didn't know.
Uh-huh.
And that's why I started to become a hybrid. I love listening to stuff like old country music, and I'll pull it into my music because it sounds new because nobody's listening to that. So when I bring it to R&B, people are like, "Oh, like look at Ray Charles when he did country, or Stevie Wonder when he did country." It's like, well, that totally made sense because
Mm-hmm.
a song is a good song, a melody and the lyrics, and it speaks to someone, you know. Beyonce, they covered the Bee Gees' emotions. It works. Those things are
I
easy
love
to,
that
yeah,
song.
yeah, it's beautiful when you can hear that redone. And if you think historically about music, that's why a Frank Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald and a Sarah Vaughan and Billie Holiday, they would all
Mm-hmm.
cover the same song because
Mm-hmm.
a good song is a good song and is a good song in any decade genre. And so, yeah, Berklee just, I was a sponge. I lived in the media center. I watched every video, microfiche, laser disc, anything I could see. I think the beauty of growing up when I came up, being in my 40s now, I was on the cusp of analog and digital. So I saw both. I saw
Mm-hmm.
Apple. I look at my iPhone and I remember the 2C green screen that I had in the
Mm-hmm.
Oregon Trail, seeing where music and everything evolved. But the right time of studying music where it was still analog enough with digital that forced me to seek out information. See, now you just pull up a phone. Oh, I can go to YouTube, whatever. That's one level of seeking. But
Mm-hmm.
physically having to go to a library, dig through vinyl records, you really were forced to focus.
Yeah.
And by listening to a vinyl record, you listen to the whole album, you listen to an experience, you immerse yourself
Yeah.
in a concept and a vibe. And that's why I think vinyl has resurgence in the last couple of years
Yeah.
because it's like music is meant to be consumed. And if you do it in a singles market, you do it digitally. That's almost like a McDonald's fast food.
Yeah.
And when you do it vinyl, that's sitting there for a nice proper meal. That's a Sunday
Mm-hmm.
dinner. That's a steak. And that's good to gnaw on it and chew on it and ruminate. And that's why Motown, when you had that experience, they made sure that if you're going to spend that money, and it was hard to get that money, you would have that record, you would treasure that record, you would play that record, you would invite
Mm-hmm.
people over to listen to that record, and that's communal because not everybody got the record. I,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
just I just discovered a Prince record that was shelved called the Black Album that kind of came out bootlegs, but
Mm-hmm.
I had never heard this record, and I was like, this is such an interesting record. So people back then who had a copy because they weren't supposed to get it, well, then you not everybody could get it. You'd have to invite people over to hear it. And so I
Yeah.
love those types of things, listening parties, listening rooms,
Mm-hmm.
and sharing that. That's why when I created my radio show, I knew that I listened to more music than almost anyone I know. And so if I'm curating and listening to it and educating people or
Mm-hmm.
edutaining people, then when I'm learning about something for the first time and I play that for my audience, I can guarantee 99% of them are hearing it for the first time. They did not know that or hear it in that framing. And
Yeah.
so I think that's why we need these podcasts. We need people to to interview people and show them the way. And what you hear from everybody is that everyone's unique, everyone's different, but there is a through line. At the end of the day, people are they're
Yes.
passionate about what they do, and we need more people to champion more people doing it. We need the future generations to create more garage bands. Now
Mhm.
people aren't playing instruments and learning as much because they can do
Mhm.
AI, they can make beats, and
Yeah.
there's a space for all that. But 100 years ago, you would go to someone's house, and because there was no radio, everybody would pick up the jug and the banjo and the guitar and the piano.
Mhm.
Everyone played a little something. And what that does developmentally for kids and their brains, your brain lights up all over the place when you start to learn an instrument, when you start to sing with
Mhm.
people. Even if you just see people singing together, you look at global music, African music, Latin music. When you just have a choir singing
Yeah.
gospel music, there's an infectious energy of that
Yes.
force of sound and
Yeah.
the beauty and complexity of the human voice and how it works together. And so we're just fortunate to be able to document that now
Oh yeah.
digitally and have ways to record and get it out to
Mhm.
people. So there's no excuse. There's no excuse why if you want to do it, you should be doing it. And if you haven't done it yet, you still have time. You still can for sure.
Like you said, it's easy. I play several different instruments. I play the piano, I play the flute, the clarinet, the piccolo, and the saxophone because they're all basically the same fingering. So that's why it never was a problem for me. But I can play anything with a reed, but not without. Like I can't do the brass thing and whatever. But it matters. It really do. Like when I hear people like in New Orleans, we don't give a damn. We be all off tune. They have the beat. You be drunk. You don't care. You're just dancing. But I some stuff I hear and I be like, they should have harmonized that or brought that down or that's don't go with that. But the type of music we make, it don't matter. You know what I'm saying? But I get what you're saying. I have stacks. I have all my dad albums. I even have album from Lil Wayne, The Carter. I have
Mm-hmm.
that on vinyl. So, but do I have anything to play on it? No, because we don't. I don't think the place we would go to get the needles. Remember, had to go get the needles for the.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't wouldn't even know where to go get that from right about now.
It's good to support. It's good to show the physicality. It's good to have that tangibleness. People collect T-shirts or shot glasses. It's just
Yeah.
good because it becomes part of who you are. If you surround yourself with those things, we come to your house, we see these instruments, we see that. We say, "There's a person who loves music. There's a person who appreciates music." And even
Mhm.
playing enough to just know a little guitar, you pick it up at a party, you make a couple of friends. It's enough. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to try to get to the upper level echelon.
Mhm.
Everybody's got to win a Grammy. It's not like that. It's just what it does to you. If I'm just singing at home for myself to make me feel good, the intrinsic internal part of that is what I love. I love, when you're having a good day or a bad day, there's music that goes with any of that, and it can elevate and change your mood. I listen to a lot of classical music when I work or do other things because it changes your brain. And there's a reason that music has lasted, since the 14, 15, 1600s and beyond. People were like, this is great to pass down for generations that's still relevant. We're just now learning about blacks and classical music and giving them their flowers. And
Yeah.
so there were many that history has forgotten and some that history has whitewashed. Growing up, I thought the Lone Ranger was white. And I only recently knew that it was based on a black man who
Hmm.
married a Native American woman and spoke
Hmm.
all the tribal languages. My grandfather traveled around the world with Wings Over Jordan, singing with then spirituals.
Yeah.
And but he went to a Jewish school and he spoke Italian when the Italian meat man would come around. Like, blacks are diverse in
Yeah.
color and shade and and mindset and all kinds of things. And so
Hmm.
don't play us cheap. Don't count us down. And
Hmm.
we'll take whatever you give and we'll make $1 out of 15 cents.
Hmm.
That's what we do. That's why we influence so much culture. That's why everybody wants to see what are they wearing, what are they doing, what are they listening to,
Yeah.
because what are they creating next? Because that's we don't always own or exploit in the same way,
Hmm.
but we definitely will that's why someone's like, I had one string and I made it work. I learned how to play that. That's all I got.
Uh-huh. What you think about Trap Symphony? They're doing opera, well, trap opera and symphony. They're giving it a twist. But I heard a girl singing trap opera, and my God, oh, it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I love the juxtaposition of putting two things together. And the Grammys used to be really great at doing that. Like, I remember when Kendrick Lamar, who's now won more Grammys for rap than anybody, when they linked him with Imagine Dragons and they played together and it was like rock meets hip hop, or
Mhm.
Jay-Z with Linkin Park. People weren't thinking that way, but it's like, of course, rock music would fit with hip hop in the experience,
Yeah.
because you have that angst, you have that rage, you have that grunginess that fits so well with
Mhm.
the grungy beats and stuff. I've seen Indian music where they influenced hip hop. I've seen opera where they put in EDM and beats. And so
Mhm.
yeah, trap opera, I think even if you're like, I don't love it, I can appreciate it's
Mhm.
making you think, is
Yeah.
pushing the boundaries, right? You
Mhm.
have to go over the line to know where the line could be. So you
Yeah.
have to do it. And it's like we do it in culinary arts, we do it in fusion. The Kogi truck here, they mix Korean and Mexican. Why? Because
Mhm.
LA is a melting pot. They live next to
Yeah.
each other. Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you go in LA and you get a pastor taco and you see it spinning on that thing and they cut the meat, they got that from the Middle East. That's gyro meat. But
Mhm.
Mexicans took that over. And so it's like, if you can do that there, you can do that in any arena where you're like, let me bring this from somewhere else. In business, the Entenmann's people, they had the viewing window for their cakes. They took that from the meat industry because people used to get bad meat. They were like, I want to see it in plastic. I want to see my meat and know what I bought. And people, when they had that visual, oh, that cake looks good. I want that. They sold way more because it used to be a box you couldn't see anything. They
Mhm.
didn't create something new. They said, what's happening over here that's working? And let me pull that into my own life.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone should be learning from somebody else. It doesn't have to be your industry or your thing. But if you see it and you're like, oh, that's working in technology, that's working in film. How can I bring that into music? Right? That's working in this genre. How can I put it into my thing? Of
Yeah.
course. And the more, because it might take a few experiments, to eventually figure out, oh, that worked. But you might be a pioneer. You may create a whole genre nobody was thinking about. And now you get the credit of saying, oh,
Yeah.
I wasn't afraid to be able to do that. Somebody has to clear that road and make a path. Lewis and Clark, they had to go on that expedition, so we knew California was over here. Like, someone has to cross those mountains and figure it out. We know something's there. The people from Europe, they had to come over here and figure out the world didn't just end, at the sea monster on the map. We got to keep going past that.
You ever heard, like, I have listened to a song in Spanish and then a different language. Love it. Don't understand a word, but I love it. So to me, it's universal. Music is universal. It make you feel it could be, it doesn't have to be one genre of music for me.
Mm-hmm.
To appreciate it. And we in New Orleans, we changed everything. We took Shirley Caesar. I think she was saying something, beans, greens, she was just talking, and they made a whole song
Yeah.
out of that. But guess what the good part? Everybody know about her now who didn't listen to gospel music. We did it to Dinah McClurk and we fall down. Everybody knows about him now. They're listening to his album.
Yeah, and I think there are some artists who won't love it as much and some who will. But I look at
Yeah.
someone like a George Clinton, when they started taking all that P-Funk and putting it places with Ice Cube and Dre and everybody, he was happy. And he worked with Kendrick and other people. They love it because they're like, of course, get
Yeah.
it to the next generation. Because the thing is, you're making everything palatable to that generation. It has to
Mhm.
speak to their times, but they're still honoring and paying homage to you.
Yeah.
And yeah, Shirley Caesar, that's a whole
A
demographic.
whole
And
different.
if they're hearing that and it's helping them, we fall down. That's a great message. Getting to new people, then that's all good. But yeah,
Mhm.
any language, in Africa they have what's called talking drums. They're drums that make a sound in this name, what it sounds like. They have a drum called the kagun, and when you hit it, kagun, kagun, that's what it's saying. But it's
Okay.
like we can hear that, we feel that. It's like
Mhm.
I went to Kenya for the first time last year. I mean, I don't speak the language, but when I see them dancing and jumping, like I'm out there dancing and jumping. When
Yeah.
I put the little kind of rap that they put on, I look just like it. I feel like I'm part of the tribe now.
Uh-huh.
I was like, there's a whole tribe. I
Yeah.
wear red and black. They wear red and black. I was like, these are
Uh-huh.
my people. We have now assimilated into that. And so, yeah, there's many things. The lyrics you may not understand, but the emotion. I can go
Yeah.
to any genre in any language, and then I can be like, that's a happy song. That's a sad song. This
Yeah.
person's happy about what's happening. This person's not happy about what's happening because
Hmm.
it's just a vibe and a feeling. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's just like we still get that beat. It's like that vibration is hitting us, and we're feeling something. And it doesn't matter if we can translate the language and figure out the lyrics, and that's a component. But there's some music that doesn't really have actual lyrics at all. Enya had a huge hit where she just took the sounds that are from every language, and it's
Hmm.
kind of like soul fast, like a do re mi. It's just like fa da 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 da. It's
Hmm.
not actual words, but it worked. There was an Italian musician who had a huge pop hit with a gibberish song that made no sense. But he was like, "This is what English sounds like to a non-English speaker." So
Uh,
I'm just gonna make a song, and it was huge. And I listened to that.
wow.
No one understands it because it doesn't make any sense, but it sounds like something. It sounds right, and your mind will just fill in the gaps and make the connections. But at the end of the day, it's like you just want to be a part of the experience, right? Like if K-pop is happening, I'm like, that's cool. Doesn't mean I listen to it every day, but I respect, hey, they're doing that. And when you look at K-pop, the history of it, they're just taking American music and making it their own. They're just taking rap and hip hop and R&B and the girl groups that have come before
Yeah.
and the boy groups that come before, and they're just making it them. It's not new,
Yeah.
but it's
It's
like, but it took a while for them to open up and to get that. The rest of the world gets the Western stuff. They're getting it later. It's like 5, 10 years later, they're getting it coming into it. That's why Europe was so great at pulling all that Motown back in the
Mhm.
80s. That's when you had they did Tainted Love by
Mhm.
Soft Cell. Well, that was Motown. That was Gloria Jones. And then they went to Where Does Our Love Go? That's Supremes because
Mhm.
they were digging through those crates for
Yeah.
20 years ago. What's happening
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
And so there's nothing new under the sun. It's just repurposed and regurgitated for the next
Yeah.
generation. But I embrace it. If someone took all my stuff and wanted to put it out there in different ways, I
Uh-huh.
said, good. Just make sure, tag me, give me a shout out, bring me up there, and I'll twerk it too. I don't care if I get old, I'll still be twerking. Don't matter to
I
me.
I watched the Ray Charles movie, and they quoted that some of the people saying that I think the word was sacrilegious because he was mixing the R&B with the church music. But so that brought that to my attention. And then one day I'm listening, I'm all in it. Drew Hill was singing and everything. And he went to, my eyes have seen the glory. I'm saying, I'm like, wait. This is a church song. Hold up. And that's the church song. What is he
Mm-hmm.
doing? And half of his music, he is singing gospel with his music. It's beautiful, don't get me wrong. But
Right.
he did it in a way where it took me to get this age to notice what I was saying.
Well, yeah, I think you make a great point because a lot of people cross over and some people don't like that. Actual true gospel music is a crossover. It
Yeah.
pulled from blues and spirituals and other stuff. So there were people who didn't like modern gospel music then.
Hmm.
You look at the person who wrote Precious Lord, like people were like, "You're a jazz musician. I don't want this in God's church or whatever." But I don't see music that way. I see
Hmm.
music as being from God in all different types of
Yeah.
genres. And I think, if someone who wouldn't come to church and listen to that hears this
Mhm.
song and gets that message, then it's effective. And I think what people want to put it like this is this and this is that. These are the buckets, right? But
Mhm.
I believe in like hybrid or integration, right? It's like why? Well, I don't want to be at the club and playing my music on Saturday, and then now I'm not accepted or have to clean myself up for Sunday. I'm
Mhm.
not saying that I don't respect it in the
Yeah.
culture and what you do, but I'm saying like I don't. I want to be the same me all the time. I don't edit or adjust myself that I'm widely, completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And people will say that they're like, okay, that's the devil's music or that's God's music. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
I think the creator created us to create, and I
Yeah.
think to put a cap on that and be like, well, only this one style of music is of God and everything else isn't. It's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you could say that. I was like, there's so much positivity and things that come out in other genres, and I think when God looks down and sees you doing the thing that He created you to do, He
Yeah.
says, "I made you do that," and He
Yeah.
smiles and He's
Yeah.
happy. He's like, "That's you. That's what I love." And He's not saying, "Well, I only love if you fit this little box." God is not
Mhm.
trying to box us in. He's trying to let us be free.
I feel like people who play by ear are blessed, truly. Okay. I only can read. I can't play by ear. My
Mm.
dad, everybody played. I always had to read that. I couldn't do it. And then I realized that I can play. I was taught it, but to play by ear, that's a blessing from God. To be able to sit there and you could just get on there and go with it. You ain't never even heard the song yourself. You know what I'm saying? But that's God with that.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense. I mean, historically, we didn't have written anything before music was created, and then from there, written music is a Western European type of thing,
Mm,
So there's studies like you'll see Smithsonian when they went to Africa in the 60s. They took all this African music and they tried to put it into this Western notation to write it down. And it's all over the bars and the beats are all because it wasn't meant to be written down. We
mhm.
have an oral history. We are an ear society. And I think that's why for me, beyond being music, I listen to books, I listen to them fast. I understand and absorb the world by hearing it more than visual, more than written. And I have done music my whole life and studied in conservatory, and I don't read well. I can, but I don't. That wasn't a gift. Even when I started taking piano lessons, my quote unquote teacher said I was tricking them because I was looking at it and pretending to read, but I was playing by ear. I
Wow.
always was by ear. And they were like, oh, he'd be like, play it for me. And they would play it for me. And I would just mimic what I saw and what I had. And so I still can see the spatial relationships.
What?
I had a whole jazz record. I had a guy from Berklee, this Japanese guy, Moon. He arranged it with me. We wrote everything out. It's like a symphony, start to finish as a score, all written out for every part. We had 9 parts. And he wrote all my vocal parts out. And I was like, I'm going to look at this and I can just read it, but I'm not going to read this. I was like, I'm just going to kind of say, okay, I get the gist and I'm going to do my own thing. And it worked out because I was, it was my project, but I was kind of like the lowest denominator. Everybody could read but me.
Yeah.
But I don't see it as a limitation because as you said, by ear, like sometimes the people who are like, I have to read, they'll be limited. It's like, well, it's
Yeah,
not on the paper, so
of
I can't do that.
course.
It's like, well, I don't see that. In the same way, like a Stevie Wonder, he doesn't read. I mean, he can't, right, bro? And so when you see him, they're like, his voice, he does things people don't do. Yeah, because he doesn't see the limits. So he does it. He's like, I want to go there. That's it. Swoop. That's what I'm doing. So I don't think there's a right or wrong way. I think write it down and play it. I think don't write it down and hear by ear. I've seen people who have limits of switching between the two, but
Mhm.
but the thing is that you look at the Bible, you look at the parable of the talents. Some have five, some have two, some have one. The thing with the person with one, they buried it. Just work the mess out of your one. If you only read it, then write it down. Read it, play
Mhm.
it, let people enjoy it. If you play by ear, you don't read, play, do it.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter because there's no right or wrong way. There's just a way, right? But if you're
Yeah.
built to do that and you're wired to do that, do that. And again, when God looks down, He says, "I made you do that."
Mhm.
Because he gave you certain limitations, he gave you certain deficits, because you'll adapt, you'll adjust, you'll overcome, you will make it work, you'll leave it out. When um when Prince was making Purple Rain and he did the song When Doves Cry, if you listen to that track, he took out the bass. Could
Mhm.
it be bass? Yes, but there wasn't. He was like, I don't need it. Sometimes omitting something is just as good as having it in there. You know,
Didn't he
sometimes
play
the
all
mistake
the
is good.
instruments?
He did, and that,
Wow.
and the time. But sometimes you need more, sometimes you need less, and
That
so
is
that's it's
talent.
okay.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I was like, we were glad to have him, and you know, business, fighting with the labels and all that stuff. People think you're crazy. People think, oh, you change yourself to a symbol. This person's off the deep end. You don't know what happened to them. You don't know when you write slave into your face. You're right. Yes, you are an indentured servant. You signed your name and likeness at 18 over to Warner Brothers, who owns you.
Hmm.
You're making the records and they're taking the money and the money you could have got. Why can't they give you the advance? Because you're writing it, you're producing it, you're playing everything. You're making it in the studio you own. So why do I owe you money? Why don't we split it 50-50? So of course, it's the same with Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle leaves that show, goes to Africa. People are like, oh, you're over the deep end. You don't know what happened to him. You don't know what Comedy Central did. You don't know what it's like to be in a boardroom of all white people with a white partner, and they're like, you tell these N-word jokes because we own you. Here's 50 million. He was like, well, F you. I don't need it. You can't talk about it, but obviously, you know, something happened. And
Hmm.
coming back and making the deals with Netflix, paving your own way, people thought he was done, but he wasn't. And he's done amazing things because people who only know one side of the story, they weren't there. They don't know the truth. They don't know. And so many artists go through that. And so I admire a Prince. You know, Prince came, um, Spike Lee and Denzel were making Malcolm X, and they
Hmm.
ran out of money. And Prince paid to get that film finished.
Hmm.
And then Spike Lee put his music into Girl Six because
Hmm.
that was the thank you. And they would sit and watch basketball and all that stuff. And all the basketball things, Charlie Murphy, it's all true. Prince
Hmm.
will school you in basketball, step on you in the heels, and make you pancakes. It's true. All good things. But I think, yeah, Prince to be so prolific, you think of a person, I played everything, I wrote everything, I did everything. At the end of the day, to be as famous as he was,
Yeah.
he's not wrong. He's not wrong that Warner Brothers is like you're a slave. In the same way, you die, they crack open your vault. They'll put anything out. There's a reason an artist said that was not to be out. I don't want that out. And they don't respect your wishes upon your death. All these posthumous albums, Michael Jackson, they're like, oh, now you can do this. You're in Cirque du Soleil. We got you in a video game. If you didn't do it alive, believe me, he had the money. If he wanted Sony PlayStation to put him out, he would have done it. And
Hmm.
if they said, I don't want this, you should respect. I did not want that out. That was something for me to learn and grow. And I've decided that's not ready. That was not fully baked.
Hmm.
But, you know, the fans want it and we get it out. We love it. But, you know, there's a reason why the artist, you know, and good or bad, right or wrong, is their choice. It's their content. They made it. And
Hmm.
that's what happens. See, if you don't actually own it and they own it, they will decide and make it for you. And if they
Hmm.
can make any money and exploit you in any way, put you on a bumper sticker, t-shirt, mug, they will. Because again, you gave them your name and your likeness. People
Hmm.
have no idea what they've signed, you know? So that, but again, people at that time, they're like, well, why would you change your name to a symbol? Because they own my name. I can't use my name anymore. It's over. You know what I mean? People think you're nuts. Oh, this is an unpronounceable thing. I don't have a name. I sold it. I
Hmm.
didn't realize that at 18. I didn't know that. I'm not a lawyer. So it's like, yeah, of course it sounds crazy till you're in the industry and you see the craziness. You see
Hmm.
how you've made an album that gets critical acclaim that they choose never to put out and shelve it. And then you're signed to a deal that forces you to make albums, but they won't put them out. So now you can't sign a deal or put out anything. You're stuck.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. I had Berklee professors that were amazing who couldn't do anything because they were trapped with a 2 album deal. The first album, they decided not to put it out and they wouldn't count it. So they couldn't make a second album because they never had a technical first album. You'll look at it if you look at Frank Ocean. Frank Ocean had a 2 album deal, fought with Def Jam, put out the first Channel Orange or whatever record. It did really well. He made no money. So what he ended up doing is he made a second album. It was not that great. He put it on Apple Music as a visual album. Nobody heard it. And as soon as he delivered that as his second album, he released his second actual album on his own and made 20 million. See, that's the thing. People think it's crazy until they see how the business is and how it's not artist first.
Hmm.
And so you have to fight. You have to fight to regain everything you could have gotten. Because they know if they could grab they will grab that dough
Mhm.
no matter what. They don't care because they didn't make it. They have no feelings, and I'm not faulting them. It's like they do other things, but
Mhm.
as the artist, it's like, you want to have control and own your songs and your publishing. Either the things we possess, sometimes they own us too, right? But who owns what at the end of the day? Like Tina Turner, she left Ike Turner. What did she want? She said, you can take every song, you take Nutbush City Limits. I'm from Nutbush, you're not. Take it. I'm taking my name. Why?
Mhm.
Because people know me as Tina Turner. If
Yeah.
I go back to Ida Mae, nobody knows that. I'm taking everything. I'll divorce you and I'll keep your name because
Uh-huh.
that's going to be how I get over and have success.
Uh,
And she did. I respect it.
yes, yes. So tell us about the video. What's the concept behind the video that we're about to watch?
So I put a spell on you, obviously, Screaming Jay Hawkins, Nina Simone, even as late as Annie Lennox,
Mhm.
bringing my own spin to that amazing, iconic song. And then from there, I worked with Donnie Nikki, the dancer in it, and Image Stricken, who was the director of it.
Oh,
And
wow.
we what we did is as a kid, I really read a lot of books and I studied a lot of Greek mythology. So we took this old myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. Orpheus was given by Apollo this lute that he played, and he had this tragedy where his wife was killed on their wedding day and dragged to the underworld, and he has to go to bring her back. And through this process, he gets her and tries to bring her back. They say, don't look back until you get to the surface. And something happens. She trips, he looks back, and she disappears. And so this video is that whole thing. I'm doing this conjuring 2.5 minutes or whatever, singing this song, pouring my heart out, bleeding over this piano, knowing that I'm going to have a fraction of time with this person who I'll never really get, but I would do it every day through the pain, through the tragedy to have one moment. Who wouldn't want one more moment with a loved one if they could, no matter how difficult it was? And that's what I wanted to convey in this video that
Mhm.
as tough as life can get, a moment of happiness, a moment of bliss is worth it.
Yeah. Well, tell me about your podcast. Let everybody know where they can check you out, what's going on.
Yeah, so Deeper Grooves podcast, we've done over 50 episodes, turning that into a book that'll come out next year. That became my radio show, Deeper Grooves, which is on the SoCal Sound. Every Saturday, 10 to 11, we took you to heaven and back on the SoCalSound.org. It's archived there on the on air for Saturday, 10 p.m. You'll see Deeper Grooves. You can see all the back show catalogs in your app, smart speaker, terrestrial radio in LA, internet, SoCalSound.org. But yeah, so happy to be in community with humans, not algorithms, not machines, curating this content and then meeting amazing people that I interview at the station. I've interviewed Corey Henry, I've interviewed Marcus King, I've interviewed John Baptiste.
Mhm.
From New Orleans, and he amazing to see him win the Grammy for Americana this year.
Yeah.
And so it's just um, your gifts and your talents will make room for you. And I curated a life over time, but God's plan and this journey was something that I could never have fathomed. When I came out of music school, I wanted to be a great singer, a great keyboardist, a great songwriter. I had no idea I would own a record label or a publishing company, put out my music, put out other people's music, be a house band for television on Discovery Channel with Josh Gates Tonight and HBO Max, license music for film and TV, work with BMW,
Mhm.
just all these things, have a radio show. And so I'm just very thankful, very grateful. People can always find me on social media at Cliff Beach Music. All my music streams under Cliff Beach. The book Side Hustle and Flow and all the variations are on Amazon, Audible, and all the places you can get books. And then I have a website, sidehustleandflow.net. People can always read our blog. 5 articles a week go up there. Really, like I said, we're created by a creator to create. I just want to encourage the next generation or anybody at any socioeconomic status, ethnicity, gender, you can transcend. You can get these dreams out there. You can do it on a global scale. You can do it on a small scale. It doesn't matter. You can do it, and you're not behind. As Black people, you're not behind. You set the trends. You create the tone, and people forget, and so you have to remind them. and we are more than we can fathom, more than we could think. You know that the limitless potential that you have. The universe is expanding, and we can't even see beyond the stars, let alone our own galaxy. And
Hmm.
there's more out there, and even if you get partially there, you'll get further than not starting at all. So just get out there and get your dreams out there, and it's fun. I remember working with kids, and I would see them playing video games, and they were like, I was like, why do you guys play video games all day? They're like, because it's fun. And I
Hmm.
was like, I forgot. I used to love video games. And then I was like, when did I become so serious? So it's like, I try to have fun. They say that a 4-year-old laughs 400 times a day and a 40-year-old laughs 4 times a day. You want to stay young? Laugh, have fun, get
Hmm.
out there, have more joy, do your passion, have these projects. It's a labor of love, but you love it. You do it anyway because if you don't, you'll go crazy. Keeping it inside you, locking it in. When something's locked inside you like that, creates a cancer, creates something inside you that's not good. Your body is meant to get it out. It's better out than in. And even if it's one book or one podcast or one song, if that can only come from you, I tell people don't make a hard drive record. Don't make something that just live on the computer. We're never going to hear it. You got to put it out. You got
Hmm.
to stick a fork in it and say it's done. Because I remember one time I was recording this video. We did 3 takes, and I said, okay, let's use take two. And the guitar player was like, oh, I think we could do it better. I said, absolutely, but we can't do that again. I don't have a time machine. You can't go back to take two. That was done. Got to put a fork in it. Got to move on to the next thing. That's
Hmm.
why I tell people good enough, it trumps great every time. Sometimes you're looking for perfection and get that thing out there 100%. It's cost prohibitive. It's time prohibitive. You'll just never get anything out. It's like I wouldn't be able to get 10 projects out in 10 years if I wasn't like forking it
Yeah.
onto the next one. Carry that feedback to the next one, make the next one better.
Hmm.
Michael had to make Off the Wall to get the Thriller. He couldn't have made Thriller off the bat. That was a process. And so you'll figure it out. But we already know if you have a school children, you split a group in half. You say, I want one half of the group to make one amazing project, and I want the others to make 10 projects. People that make 10 projects will exponentially be better at the 10th project than anyone of the first project because they learn 10 times how to get better over time.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I tell you what, it was great talking to you. You're an amazing person. And I look forward. I'm gonna I'm gonna have your handle on and send me everything that I need. I'll put it at the end where they can find you on your website and everything. And I'm gonna follow as well. And I'm gonna let you introduce us to your video. By the way, it looks good. I love that piano. Okay. All right.
The White Piano, thank you so much. Well, this is Cliff Beach coming to you live from LA. You're going to be watching I Put a Spell on You. Thank you to Dong, Nikki, and Emma Strickland for helping to make this, as well as Tim Hall. And I'm so excited to be played on this network chatting with Goldie. And it is truly all good in the hood.
Oh, yes. All right, y'all, check it out.
I put a spell on you, spell on you.